Welcome to the Encouragement Engineering Podcast, where we help people to combat the negativity that inundates our daily lives with a positive perspective and positive action. Today's guest is Jerome Fenton. Jerome Fenton was born in Jamaica, but migrated to Bronx, New York at an early age. Since his youth, Jerome sensed that he was bitten by the entrepreneurial bug, and you'll notice he's not radiating any weird colors or anything. This led him to start his first business at 18 years old, and he grew from $40 to a $500,000 business in a short time. After selling that business, he went on to launch a few other businesses in different industries until he found his true passion, which was educating early stage entrepreneurs on how to launch their business from concept to reality. He is most active with his website, hisforhustle.com, where he publishes his podcast, the H for Hustle podcast, and gives tips and tricks on how to launch your business ideas from concept to reality. So please welcome to the show, Jerome Fenton. Jerome, welcome, and appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Well, if we can, let's tell the people, like we said in your bio, you've grown some businesses, but tell us your background. What brought you to doing that? Who are you? And give the audience a bit of a background of who you are.
Okay, cool. So I kind of go off the bio a little bit. When I was 7 years old, my parents brought me to America. I moved to the Bronx. And I was like a fish out of water, right? I went from an island that was hot all the time, and I came here in July. It was like, to me, July in New York was cold. I was like, wow, this is freezing. And it was concrete. Yeah, it was concrete everywhere. I sounded funny because I have a Jamaican accent, and no one I was just a fish out of water. So once I came here, for the first year I went to school, I didn't say anything because I had an accent and I didn't want to be teased. And, I just didn't want the kids to know anything. So I didn't say a thing. They thought like I was a mute for a whole year. In school, I realized very early that I wasn't really good at school. Come to find out, I actually had a learning disorder. I had it was like a slow learning. It wasn't like dyslexia. It was like something else. I forgot the actual diagnosis, but I just didn't learn well. It took me 7 hours to take a test that takes every other kid an hour to take. It took me a long time to learn to read and everything else. So I always was a little bit behind the curve, and I was always fighting. I'd come home, my mom was like, it's time to read books, and we'll read the same books 12 times, and I still don't get it. I was pretty decent at math and science and history, but reading, that just didn't get me really well. So instantly in my mind, I knew, I was like, all right, if this thing is, I'm supposed to go to college, go to high school, go to college, and go on after that, I knew I wasn't gonna succeed in that arena very well because it just took me so long to learn. So by the time I got to high school, I literally was begging my mom, can I have my GED? Let me just take a GED test and get out of here. And she was like, no, you're gonna graduate. If you're not gonna go to college, you're at least gonna finish high school. And to tell your immigrant mom and dad that you don't want to go to college is a whole nother thing. So at 18, I graduated high school at 17, and then I was working at White Castle at the time, and two of my best friends, they were a year behind me, so they were about to graduate. And I was like, man, let's just do something. We're going to go to community college. If we're going to go to college anyway, let's just do something. Let's try to build a company. Let's really try to build something. And they were like, what do you want to build? And I was like, I don't know anything. Let's build anything. And I Googled, it wasn't even Google at the time. It was Yahoo Answers. And I typed in cheapest business to start. And it literally was cleaning came up as one. And it was like, oh, cleaning is a very easy industry. All you need is a mop bucket, a vacuum, a skill to know how to clean, and pretty much a business card. And I was like, we could do that. We should do a cleaning company. And literally my friend had $40. I had no money. I was waiting on a check I was supposed to get from White Castle. And I had a car, and I was like, that's all I have. And we literally went to the dollar store and bought a whole bunch of cleaning products, like $40 worth of cleaning products. I took my mom's vacuum. My friend took his mom's mop bucket, and then we went to Staples and went and got there's Avery business cards.
Yeah.
And we did something on WordPress. I'm not WordPress. Microsoft Word,
Yeah.
and printed like 25 business cards. And we literally took those business cards and walked on the busiest strip in our neighborhood and just went knocking door to door. And then we ran out of business cards eventually. So we started writing our name down, and we just kept on walking and walking and walking. And we did that for like 2 weeks with nothing. We just kept on going into businesses, nothing. And then one day we were on this part of the Bronx called McLean Avenue. We walk into an Allstate office with a storefront.
Mhm.
And the dude was like, hey, if you can match my old lady's price, I'll take you guys and you guys can start tonight. And we're like, what's her price? And he was like, $25 a week. I was like, deal, you got a deal.
Yeah.
So we got our
Take
first
the
client.
opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. We took the first client. We didn't really know what we were doing. We're like, okay, you just clean off the desk, you take out the garbage. And, we did the best we could. They were happy with it. We were happy. We got our $25 and took it and reinvested back in the business. And that spawned a very, very wild 4-year ride after that.
But that's great. I mean, that's what is interesting. People need to realize too that, it takes fortitude. You're going door to door, literally knocking. A lot of businesses, people don't understand that is how you start. That is how you build who you are. The other thing is reinvesting that money back into the business. That's critical.
We went to a vacuum repair store after the 4 weeks of working and bought our own vacuum and then built up from there.
Yeah, because your mom was going to start charging you rent for that vacuum, I'm sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, I know a lot of people start that way. Kids do that with lawnmowers too, and it's like, okay, you got to realize, you're borrowing dad's mower, but it's costing my gas. You got to pay for that, or any repairs.
And the maintenance, everything that goes with it.
Yeah, you learn real quick about those costs. So good for you.
Very quickly we learned about those costs, because we realized also those 99-cent products are not industrial. They're terrible. They're watered down, and we have to use better products. So it was a learning. I tell everybody that was my college. I built that company, and that's where I learned business. And it was, I would say, the most hardcore way to learn business ever. You're building a business with very little money, so you're shoestringing everything. And then on top of that, your learning curve is so high because you don't know what you're doing. So you're trying your best to figure it out. A tax paper comes, you're like, how do I pay taxes? Oh my God, we need an accountant.
Exactly. I owe somebody money. What is this?
How? We didn't even make anything yet, so, and then you figure it out along the way.
And that's a good, that's something you're never going to get out of a book. I mean, the reality of all those things hitting you right in the face.
Yeah.
You wouldn't learn that until your junior year in college.
And then I don't think you would have learned it in the same way. You would have learned it on in a paperwork understanding of it. But when it actually hits you and you actually have to pay the IRS and you have to figure out how and why and how everything works, it's quite different because you're learning from the trenches at that point.
Oh, definitely. And I think that, like you said, it brings it so much into your face. You're learning at such a quick pace. It also builds your tenacity for that so that you can grow better, so you understand, okay, what's the next step? If I want to do this again, what do I got to do? Which, enlightens us into the next part of your bio, if you will, is you got into other businesses and growing that, and then you're helping people do that as well. Tell us more about that.
Yeah. So we built the cleaning business up. We got it to a place where we had employees. We were doing great. A guy we actually found somebody to help mentor us, and that was just by happenstance. And when we found him, he was in a Jersey-based company, at a New Jersey-based company. He wanted to move into the New York market, but he didn't want to go into Manhattan. Manhattan has if you have a cleaning company there, most of the people who work for you have to be in the union. Right. So you have those union dues. You have to pay a very specific rate, and the people that we had were outside of that. We were in the boroughs. We were in the Bronx and Lower Westchester. So we didn't have to hire people with those, guidelines. Right. So he wanted to come in and buy our company because he wanted to come into that New York market. We didn't really love cleaning. The goal was to learn how to run a business. He gave us an offer. We were like, oh my God, we're going to be rich.
And Uncle Sam knocked at the door again.
Yeah, no one tells you about capital gains tax.
Yeah.
You know, how to position yourself, you know, how to actually move that off. And, you know, our accountant walked us through that. Luckily, we had a good accountant very early on, and kind of we were set up to sell. So it was set up in a perfect way. He bought us, we got out, and then I kind of floated around and did nothing for about 6 months. I didn't really know what my next direction was. And my dad was like, so what were you afraid of in your business? And I was like, I was never really good at sales. I was always a little bit afraid of it. So my dad sold life insurance for years. He also grew up like, he was one of the people that I learned like positive attitude from, because he used to listen to like Les Brown and Tony Robbins tapes and all those things. So he was like, you should go after what you were afraid of. And I was like, all right, so how do I do that? He's like, if you're afraid of sales, like go somewhere, get a job for like 3-6 months, learn how to sell right, because they're going to train you. So this is exactly what I did. I went on Craigslist, and I said, you know what? I'm just going to type in sales jobs or door-to-door sales, because I did some of it in my cleaning company already. So I went and did door-to-door sale. I found a job. It was selling office supplies door to door. And the only question I asked during the whole interview, because it was like a 2-part interview, was, are you guys going to teach me? And they were like, yeah, we'll teach you everything you need to learn. So I did that for about 6 months. And at first I sucked. I was terrible. I was like so nervous. Although I did it before, it was so different because I didn't understand the product. The cleaning company, I knew it was mine, but this was something else. I was just selling office supplies, and I just was terrible at it. And then I asked my dad, I was like, Dad, I don't know about this stuff. You said chase after the thing that freed you. I don't know about this. And he was like, no, he's like, so this is what you do. Find the best people in the office. That's the number 2, number 1 salesperson in the office. And he's like, go buy them a drink and spend time with them, as much time as you possibly could. And he's like, ask them all the questions, everything that stumps you in the field, like ask them how they handle it, how they overturn this objection, how you do everything. And I was like, okay. So I got the number 1, number 2 guy and girl, and I was like, can I buy you a drink? And I peppered them with drinks the whole night long. I was just asking them questions and questions and questions. And then eventually I did what they said: respond to the objection this way, do it this way, you know, overturn it that way. And I did it exactly that. And it was like the next day I went out and I did exactly what they said, and it worked. I was like, oh, okay, this is how you do it. And I got like 2 sales that day. I was so pumped up. I think I had made like, it wasn't even big sales. It was like, I think I made $100. Like it wasn't much, but the fact that I closed something. And about 3 months in, I was number 2 in the office.
Oh, wow.
Number 4, month 4, I was number 1 in the office. I was number 1 in the office for a while, for like a month and a half. I was like, just because I had that new guy energy, you know, like you're just pumped up, and I would walk in everywhere, and I was doing great at sales. And then kind of happenstance, we had an opportunity that the client wanted to expand into more boroughs. So I was able to break off from them and start my own thing. I actually, with the client. So the client was Quill. So I went and started my own door-to-door sales company. And then I built that door-to-door sales company up to about 25 solid sales guys, about 10 of them in the top 10. And we were crushing. We did like about 3.5 million in about a year and a half in just sales. Yeah. We were just dominating office supplies in New York City for a while. So that's how I got to that next step. So it took me about another, I'd say, a year and a year and a half to build up that sales team to where we were really rocking. And then right around that time, like towards the end of the year, I was turning 30, and my daughter was born like 2 months after my birthday. And the door-to-door sales company is very time intensive because your product isn't the actual thing you're selling, it's the people. So you have to tend to spend a ton of time with them, train them and develop them. And the dad I wanted to be versus who I had to be for that job just didn't align, because growing up with immigrant parents, they both worked 2 jobs. My mom, you know, I would go to karate practice and I have a karate tournament, and I'm like, Mom, can you come to a karate tournament? She's like, you got 2 options. I could pay for karate or come to the tournament. Which one do you want me to do? And it was like, You know, so I
Yeah.
realized in myself, I didn't want to create that type of lifestyle for my kids. So I got out of that business, kind of sold off everything, sold off all the contracts, got out, sold the desk in the office, sold everything, and just got out. And then after that, I went on to, you know, a couple other different ventures.
Well, and what's the mindset? Okay, you're finishing off something that's pretty profitable. You know, and I get that your family like that comes first. I understand that fully. I've got three boys myself.
Yeah, I have three
What?
daughters now too.
Okay,
Yeah,
your house is never quiet then.
never. Now is the only time it's quiet.
That's why you do that during the day. There you
Yeah,
go.
exactly.
So what was the mindset? You're leaving that, if you will, comfort, and then you're going to do, if you will, your own thing in something that has to meet the criteria you require in your life. What was your mindset?
What, going from cleaning to door to door?
Well, even leaving the door to door. I mean, that's a big
Okay.
step too.
So that's a good question, because leaving door to door, I was with my daughter for like 6 months. My wife at the time went back to work like after 3 months, because she just can't sit still. So she's like, you take the baby, you're home. And I went into like a little funk there for a second. I was like literally like depressed. I didn't know what my next move was. And I literally started reading again. I really started reading like The Alchemist. I started reading John Maxwell books.
Right.
And that really got me out of it, that like funk that I was in. And I started working out a little bit more. I used to tell myself, Jerome, you know how to win. Just get back to winning. You know how to win. And how to win is just like, it's incremental. It's not, you don't win big right away. You win 1 day, 1 hour, 1 minute, and you just keep winning. And then you just build up the wins on top of each other. So that's what I did. I started reading again. Then reading led to going and walking with my daughter. Then I would go for a run before my wife went to work. And then all right, you know what? I got this. I can build myself back up. And I was, you know, I started reaching out back to everybody I knew and just telling them what my situation was. Hey, listen, I sold off door to door. I'm not really quite sure what I'm doing in my life. So, because the first like 10 years of my like adult life, from 18 to 30, like I was an entrepreneur. You know, I
Yeah.
worked for somebody between, but it was only 6 months. So it wasn't really that long of a time. So I just called everyone and told them, hey, this is my situation. Funny enough, a friend was like, hey, a friend is looking to hire someone who can run a sales team in Verizon in New Jersey. And I was like, all right, I never worked for anyone, but let me give this a try and see what happens. And I did work for Verizon for about 6 months. I realized that corporate thing, I wasn't built for. Like, I wasn't. And, no qualms to Verizon. They're a great company. They actually sell a great service, but I just didn't fit in, and I just couldn't figure how to be that corporate guy in that structure. Yeah. But what I did was just stockpile the wins. And then after that, I got out of the Verizon. That's when I realized like my true passion was, because friends used to call me, hey, Jerome, I'm starting this thing. I'm starting this thing. I'm thinking about doing this. A friend was like, hey, I'm starting a residential cleaning service. Could you help me start that? I helped her develop a one-page business plan. I helped her get started where she was at, got her some clients, got her going. And, right now she's having like $1.5 million, like $1.5 million business she's running right now. It's been some time that she had that business, but I realized I like this part of it. I like the coaching, the teaching, the getting people from being stuck at a corporate job to then helping them leave that corporate job, or at least set up like a side hustle for them to do, and start slowly making the steps away from that.
And it's interesting you bring that up too. And the second time you said it was steps. People got to remember, it's not going to happen overnight.
No,
it's one step at a time, and then steps are foggy, they're dark, they're unclear, but you keep going in it, and you keep pressing, you keep working in it.
And the funny thing is, everyone understands that concept, right? Everyone understands that concept because everyone has a baby or knows someone who has a baby, or they're close to a baby. We never rush a baby to walk, right? You never see a 3-month-old and be like, walk.
When you're 4 years old.
Exactly. And you never tell a 3-month-old, like, get up and walk. You're like, no, it takes time. They have to grow. They have to develop. But when we look at our lives as adults, we think like we're supposed to jump into something and be an expert right away and grow right away. And that's not how it happens. You need to take that baby step. You need to learn how to crawl, learn how to walk, learn how to run, and then grow from there.
And it's, as an adult, unfortunately, we don't have patience anymore. So we're like, I want it now.
Yeah, because
still, waiting there for you.
Yeah, because we think the world is quite different, but it's the same thing as when we were a baby. It's like it's
Oh
gonna take
yeah,
the time it's gonna take. It's
yeah, definitely. It's interesting because there's a lot of things doing that you have to overcome in your mindset, the negative talk in your mind. How do
hmm
when people start a new business, that's a scary venture. Where's
Yeah.
the money coming from? What's all this? Like you said, you got it in your teeth. Okay, the tax man's right there, capital gains are coming at you. All these things that people don't realize are on the other side of that entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
What were some of the things that helped you to overcome not only that negative talk, or maybe that you coach people through? Is what are some things to help them get through some of those hard times of negative talk that's going to be in their head?
So there's this one moment. So for me to graduate high school, considering I wasn't a great student, right? My guidance counselor had got me into this program called the RAIN program, and you would just be like an intern, and you'd move around to different industries, and it was more like learning by doing
Right.
versus actually in a school setting. So I got into RAIN program, and at first I had worked in a hospital for a while, and then they moved me to like a nursing home, and I would help older people with how to use a computer and how
Okay.
to how to like learn how to do Excel and like little things like
Yeah.
that, how to open their email on American Online, like just
Yeah.
little stuff like that. And after being in a nursing home, I developed this one question I would ask to everybody. It was almost like my icebreaker, how you doing type question. And I would ask, which period in your life did you like love the most? Was it your 20s, your 30s, your
Oh
40s, your
wow.
50s? And, they were like, the answers varied. And what I started realizing, people like their 20s, some people love their 40s, whatever it was. And then you started hearing the stories of what they didn't do. I wish I would have married Mary Sue. I wish I
Wow.
had moved to California. I wish I would have did this, wish I would have done that. And I started realizing like, after like the 10 stories, like, man, there's a lot of regret up in this nursing home. There's a ton of regret in this nursing home. And that's something that's what helps my positive attitude, that piece right there. I remember like how much regret is in that nursing home. Because when you're on the lighter
Yeah.
part of your life, you have nothing but time to reflect.
Right.
And this reflection isn't always the most positive reflection that you see. So that is the thing that always got me through the negative moments in my life was I don't want to regret anything. I don't want to like be in that nursing home and be the old guy when the young kid comes and asks me what you like your 20s, 30s, or 40s. I'm gonna
Yeah.
be like, man, I wish I'd started that business. I wish I would have did this. I wish I did, I never wanted to have that. So that's like the one thing that keeps clicking in my mind is like, do you want to be the old guy regretting in the nursing home? And I'm
Excellent.
like, oh no. And then as soon as I
Yeah.
get that feeling or think back to that moment, I'm like, oh no, okay, what do I have to do now to move forward past this situation? Because there's a time where you're not going to be as active as you once were. You're
Right.
going to just be, it's just how our human body is created. At one point we just start deteriorating, so you can't move as fast as you want to. And I don't want to like say I didn't put everything on the line or tried everything I wanted to before that point comes in my life. So that's the thing that gets me over a lot of like the funks is like,
Right.
Jerome, you know how to win and you don't want to be that guy in a nursing home. Like those are the two things that I always say to myself. And I'm big in affirmations. I always tell myself positive things because that mental part,
Yeah.
it
And
will
that's a
trip
big
you up.
hurdle. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a big
Yeah.
hurdle. I think of things similar that way. I used to work in a cemetery.
Oh,
And
wow.
you talk about a place of,
More.
if you will, regrets. There's a lot of music boxes, if you will, in the ground that the music wasn't always played all the way out. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I'm going full bore. I want to be out there. I want to, you know, I'm here for a purpose, and I'm going to share that purpose. So
Yeah, just try to put it as much as possible because at the end of the day, you want to make sure that your tank is empty when
yeah,
when you're at that point. So those are the two things, and I hope that helps anyone who's listening. Like, just think, like, do you want to be that person regretting? Because I see, when I worked in Verizon for the 6 months I worked there, I saw a lot of people like they're dying a slow death in those cubicles. They're
yeah,
dying, and it's like for what? You know what I mean? Like, what are we so afraid of? Is it like money? What's the thing that makes you so afraid of not going there? I know we're based on security, but and our human nature keeps us from wanting to go after things and just be secure. But if you're going to be sitting there regretting your entire life, 20 years from now, why do the thing that you're doing right now?
Right. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there is a security factor in there because, okay, we got bills to pay. We got to make sure they're covered. But like you said, the other side of that is your life. And what is that going to be like? I don't want to be that old man there
Yeah.
eating the pudding complaining.
Yeah, and I tell all my clients that, like, everyone's an entrepreneur, right? Not everyone's going to be Jeff Bezos, right, and run a big, huge conglomerate of a company. Some people are going to run a solo entrepreneur thing, or they might have one or two employees. But if you take away everything that is secure to you, and you had to feed yourself and your family without any of the things like jobs, we would all find a way. Before there were jobs, people were bartering things. Hey, I know how to make this. I'll trade you this for that. That's entrepreneurship. That's what it is. So, all you're doing is trading time for money, or services for money, or product for money. It's the same thing. So if you can think like that, then you can definitely become an entrepreneur. Now, what scale you're going to be that's up to you. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like everyone has it in them, and 2020 has taught us that, if not anything else.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
people have definitely gotten creative over this time.
Well, and you talk about immigrants. I mean, our country is based off of people immigrating here from other countries, and that's what they did. Is they came here and they figured out ways to make it work. The tailor figured out how they can grow their business. The bakers figured out how they can grow their business, so they expanded, and everybody else. I mean, they learned how to do a thing that helped benefit somebody of a product, service, and then they grew that by making it better and better and better. And so it's a great lesson that you help people to see that, go after that idea, go after that goal.
Yeah.
Well, where can people find out more about you on the internet?
So if they want to, I'm at hforhustle.com. That's where my website is, all the information, podcast. I have like an 8-week course that I teach people who want to transition from their jobs into entrepreneurship. And I also do like 100-day goal setting thing.
Cool.
Where I help people set goals and accomplish them in 100 days, because 100 days is the perfect amount of time to get stuff done. I call them sprints, and you can have 3 sprints in a year. Pretty much, we have 365 days. You can do 100 days, so you can do 3 sprints in a year and literally accomplish more than you could ever accomplish in your entire life in that 3-month window. So H for Hustle. I also have a podcast where I interview entrepreneurs, and I talk about the journey from transitioning for working for someone to working for themselves. And it's the goal behind it is to inspire someone who's sitting on the sidelines, dying a slow death in that cubicle, and to hear a story. Maybe, you maybe listen to one person, that person sparks your mind and says, you know what, I could do this. You know what, I'm planning on leaving this cubicle, whatever the case may be. So that's where you can find everything from me, hforhustle.com. And the podcast is the H for Hustle podcast. It's everywhere, iTunes, Spotify, wherever.
Awesome. Well, and we'll have all that in the show notes as well, so people can get a hold of you and contact you for more information. But I want to thank you for your time today. It was very informative. I love the attitude. I love the drive you have. So thank you, Jerome, for doing this. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with people. What's one, if you will, encapsulating thing you might have for the audience?
One encapsulating thing.
Yeah.
Your hustle creates your luck.
Okay. All right. I like that.
It.
Okay. Yeah. Your hustle creates your luck. Okay. Yeah. Great.
So the more you hustle, the more lucky you get. The people who hustle the most are the most luckiest.
Great. No, and we'll have that as well. I always like to ask questions like that for that spark of interest for people. So thank you so much for your time today, Jerome. It's very informative, and thanks for being here, part of the Encouragement Engineering Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. You take care.